Hop, Bugs Bunny, hey. Hop, hop, Bugs Bunny, hey. Hop, Bugs Bunny, hey. Hop, hop, Bugs Bunny. UFO! 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 Is it real or fake? UFO! Oh well, sometimes I think I do UFO related content only to sing this incredible Hop Bugs Bunny song in the beginning. But yeah, hello everyone and welcome to another short CM Kozeman podcast about the uncanny link between the UAP phenomena, which was really prevalent between the years 2020 and let's say 2024, and the news of the new 6th generation F47 fighter jet from the USA. Well, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I am recording on the 22nd of March 2025. And just one day ago, it was revealed through a fancy announcement by President Trump that the US had been secretly developing a next generation air superiority fighter called the F47. We don't know exactly what this plane is or what it can do. We don't even know what it exactly looks like beyond this fancy, weird promotional photograph that was shared. And well, if you know one thing about experimental planes, they rarely end up looking exactly like their prototypes or promotional pictures. But yeah, this new F-47 is going to be, in the words of Trump, the most lethal, the most advanced airplane ever built. It's going to have a feature or a capability which is shortened as NGAD, that's NGAD, which means Next Generation Air Dominance. And of course, one more thing about defense companies in general is that they love acronyms. And it looks like this plane, whatever it is going to operate as a kind of mix and match Lego system, with a lot of autonomous fighters, drones and other robotic flying objects of probably still classified nature. My understanding is that one pilot in the future is going to be able to command an entire air wing of unmanned fighter drones, unmanned bomb drones, unmanned bomber drones, and maybe even unmanned tankers and everything. There's going to be only a few people in the sky, probably flying in these NGAD fighters, these F-47s. And then around them, there's going to be a constellation of these other drone fighters that are going to do the killing and dying for them. And you know, this really means a lot when you consider the US is probably sizing up China as a next generation rival in the future. And I think the timing of this F-47 release was no coincidence either, because just a couple of weeks ago, the Chinese media showcased something which they call the Chengdu J-36, which was a weird, kind of like a flat manta ray kind of fighter or bomber or advanced aircraft or whatever. And it had no tail surfaces. Flat, weird, futuristic looking plane with 3 engines. And that was of course very interesting, because in the present day most fighters have 1 or 2 engines, and I don't know where the Chinese fighter is gonna stick that 3rd engine into. But it's clear to see that the disclosure of the F-47 was a direct response to this triple engine tailless Chinese special treat. And this has actually been a pattern during the Cold War too, in which the Russians showcased this incredibly baroque sophisticated looking and dangerous bomber. And then in response, the US went on and developed something that was actually really advanced and far more sophisticated beyond anything the Russians had. They did the kind of overkill kind of thing. They went above and beyond the Call of Duty. And then of course when the Cold War ended, it turned out that almost all of these really dangerous, scary Russian airplanes, things like the Sukhoi T-4 Sotka, which looked like this deadly Concorde-like airplane, and the Myasishchev M50 bomber, this like weird, monstrous, delta-winged, four-engined, ultra-futuristic, Naboo-ass looking, deadly bomber. Look these up, by the way. The Soviet T-4 Sotka and the Myasishchev M50. These really capable, lethal-looking planes sparked the development of actual lethal planes in the US military as a countermeasure. This is of course not to say all Russian airplanes were gimmicks, but crucially they lacked the sort of logistic infrastructure that the US Air Force had and enjoyed. And this is going to be an aside to an aside, but if you're just like a Warhammer 40k brain kid, you know, if you're a parvenu, if you're someone who knows nothing about war or conflict, then your first instinct would be to think that, oh, the more advanced machine means more deadly. Big gun, big plane, big Dhaka, you know? But actually it's logistics that win wars. And unlike the Soviets in the Cold War, the US Air Force and the US military in general had a kind of logistical network around the planet of bases, supply lines, depots, boring ships that just carried cargo, boring planes that just carried fuel, you know, and stuff like that wins the war, not the deadliest, most sophisticated robot fighter. But anyways, I think something like that is going on with this Chinese Chengdu J-26 triple engine flat fuck plane and the US revelation of the F47 as a kind of retaliation. The most interesting tidbit about this whole F47 business was this little side note when all the news sources were covering the story, and an acquisition chief for the US Air Force, I think his name was Will Roper, said that the new F47 broke some new records, but they could not even disclose what types of records these were. You know, was this thing going really fast? Was it really maneuverable? Was it doing, I don't know, some weird G-force maneuvers that no human pilot could endure? Because remember, the F-47 is part of a network. It will have this Lego kit swarm of drone fighters and other robotic flying shit around it, and I think those are the record-breaking things. You know, those things without human pilots to protect, they can go faster, they can do crazy maneuvers, heck, maybe they even have some sort of scramjet capability. And if you don't know what scramjet engines are, they are these extremely high-speed engines that enable an aircraft to travel so fast that air reaches the density of a sloshy fluid. Scramjet engines travel above Mach 6 in minimum. So it means their minimum speed is around 6 times the speed of sound. And their maximum speed is only limited by materials technologies. I mean, at those speeds, Mach 10 and above, air becomes so hot and dense that metals normally used for airplane construction can melt and distort. For this reason, most hypersonic scramjet engines that we know of are being developed for missile technologies. You know, the Russians were really promoting this back in the day. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Maybe some of these add-on drones that will accompany the F-47 will have this hypersonic capability. They could be maybe even 3-engined planes like that weird Chinese plane. Maybe they cruise along with the main fighters. Okay, so imagine that you're flying a mission with these new F-47s and you got a swarm of drones around you. Some of your accompanying drones are like F-35s or even like F-22s, but These are the lower level minions you have, because they are here to protect you against other fighters, okay? Maybe your strike weapons, this is all theoretical by the way, but maybe your strike weapons are these hyper advanced strike drones that have 3 engines. 2 of them are for regular flight, and when you penetrate the enemy's air defenses, you just say go drone, and the 3rd engine engages, and that is a hypersonic scramjet engine, and suddenly your strike drone flies off at Mach 10, Mach 11, Mach 14 and goes and strikes Beijing or something. Maybe they are nuclear weapon carriers, or I don't know what the future holds for nuclear war, because it seems to me that most countries around the world are getting ready to really fight out this kind of like a workout, you know? You have a workout, you work loose the slag of your body. Many superpowers around the world are getting ready to fight this tacit agreement, no nuke, big World War III conflict, because they want to revitalize their economies. And most importantly, and nobody talks about this, they want to get rid of all these waste people they have in their societies that are just building up. Lots of unemployed, incapable men. What better thing to go feed them into the meat grinder? Go feed them into the Chengdus and F47s. Go feed them into the hypersonic Kerberos. But anyways, I'm getting carried away with myself. So finally, let's get to the link between the new F47 and the UAP phenomena. Remember kids? Remember UAPs? Remember UFOs? Remember the Senate testimony about the reality of aliens and extra-dimensional beings? What was the name of that guy? David Grush, I think. Remember all that shit? Now, in traditional aviation, an airplane has 3 dimensions: yaw, pitch, and roll. These are the 3 axes in which an aircraft can move in. But there are other dimensions to building an actual fighter or a bomber or an advanced aircraft of any kind. Another extra dimension is politics. Who will get the contract? And there's intense rivalry between different companies, even different countries, to be the next in line for the go-to producer of the next big plane. You know, this is big business after all. Real big business. And another such extra physical dimension to airplane design is cover. Public perception, PR, and cover. And this is where I think the whole UAP angle comes in. I have a theory which I don't have any evidence of, but it's not a hypothesis. It's more advanced than that. I think it's a theory. It can very well be the truth. I understand that the UAP phenomena, which was so popular in media for the past 3 years, you know, in 2022, 23, 24, you know, remember every week, at one point almost every week there was going to be a next big announcement. Oh my god, about the UAPs, revelation, disclosure now. And just last year, towards the tail end of 2024, there was this entire wave of New Jersey UFO and UAP sightings. Everyone was like, oh look, and all the media was fanning this flame. And I wonder if that was kind of connected to the development of this new airplane as kind of an obfuscating cover. They're blowing smoke, they're muddying the waters so that any reports of actual F47 tests, and remember Trump said these things were flying for 5 years and breaking new records too. So you gotta muddy the waters, you gotta dilute the report mix so that any potential sightings or reports or even mock engagements with the F47 can be relegated to the kooky trash heap. Oh, it's one of the UAP crowd. Oh, it's just these, you know, suburban New Jersey crowd thinking they saw a drone again. And that's actually a really potent force to give you an affordable, plausibly deniable cover. So I wonder if these things were linked. Once again, I have no evidence, but these projects are multi-billion-dollar projects, okay? You know how much $1 billion is worth? Now for 1,000 of that, for just $1 million, or I don't know, $10 million, you can easily fabricate a US-wide or worldwide UAP phenomena. You can just fabricate all the evidence, or maybe you can dilute some of the actual cases with fake evidence. You can get easily followable, sketchy cooks, whistleblowers like David Grush on the line and kind of make them straw men that are meant to be duped or disproven. For just a few measly $1 million, you can kick up an entire media storm in which the political dimension, the secrecy dimension of your next generation fighter can comfortably hide in. Because remember, I don't know what China does it for. It kind of feels and smells made in China for me when they showcase all these new weird futuristic looking, oh, it's got 3 engines, look, I mean that kind of stuff. But if it ever came to an actual shooting war with all their infrastructure and their logistics network, it still seems today that American-made planes and systems and capabilities would still lead the world. So if you got something that advanced, imagine your opponent thinks the most advanced thing you got is, I don't know, the F-22 or something. But you got this ace up your sleeve. So you want that to stay hidden. So you create all these obfuscating smoke, really, this UAP smoke. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's an entire department up there in the Pentagon, just a room full of guys and girls, just cozy people, getting coffee and making this shit up and getting paid big bucks for it. If you are listening, consider this my job application. I don't know if you take any foreigners, but I believe I can add some real value to your smokescreen organization because, well, this here is a very eccentric YouTube channel, and if I know I can do something great, it's creating believable weird fiction. So yeah, and yeah, until I get a cozy Pentagon job as a smokescreen fabricator, you dear listeners can step in and maybe consider contributing to my Patreon, or maybe get something from my merch store. Even $1 per month really makes a huge difference for me. All right. Okay, where was I? Imagine you have such an ace up your sleeve against your opponent. You would want that to stay hidden. So it seems very believable and very logical for me for the UAP craze to have been such a ruse, a smokescreen, orchestrated by the United States military-industrial complex. So there you have it, everybody. The link between UAPs and the F47. Now, I was discussing this on Twitter recently, and then somebody came up to me and said, oh, you're wrong, because look at the Tic Tac UAPs. They don't look like the F47. And to this I can only say, well, you're a little dense, aren't you? You're almost as dense and thick as air at speed Mach 10. I don't know how to respond to this claim. God damn it, the point is not for it to look like a TikTok. It doesn't matter if it looks like a TikTok. All that matters is for there to be some garbage information at high density circulating among the educated elites of the world and among the common people as well. When you get that sort of a smokescreen, it doesn't matter whether your plane is shaped like a Tic Tac or a pancake or an Oreo or a donut. Doesn't matter. It's about information, and it's about controlling the narrative, or in this case, obfuscating the narrative. Okay, with that out of the way and with my theory outline, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. But what do you think? Do you think that was a likely reason for the UAP craze? Do you think it was artificially boosted as a cover? Or do you think still, in your heart of hearts, do you still hold out hope that somewhere the truth is out there, and despite all these advanced planes flying about? And don't forget, I bet your ass that the F-47 is not the only advanced plane the US military has been flying. They must have 3, 4, 5 more levels of secrecy above that, with more intricate fighters, drones, and other weapons designed for an upcoming conflict. So it's really a non-brainer for that kind of smokescreen to exist, to cover all the secret and extremely capable aircraft that they are developing. Anyways, that was that. Bish bash bosh. Hopebox Bunny, everybody. I hope you enjoyed and I hope I got your noggin jogging. This has been CM Kozeman. Wherever you are, have a nice day and I love you all. Goodbye.